Thanks for joining me for just a small part of Holy Week. For those of us who follow Jesus, this is known as Holy Week, the week leading up to Easter. And as I've been reading about the life of Jesus and trying to prepare myself for Easter, I came across something that I just needed to share. It just seems so relevant to where I'm at, and I think where a number of people are at. And if you're not here today, and you don't need to hear this today, you will eventually. But as I was reading about the last week of Jesus' life, as we are celebrating Holy Week, we just had Palm Sunday. It's a day that we celebrate Jesus riding into Jerusalem, and it was like a parade almost, or celebration. I don't know what you want to call it. Call it what you want, but Jesus was on a donkey, and people were waving palm branches and throwing down their coats, and blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. There was an excitement, an expectation. But there were a lot of ups and downs that last week of Jesus' life. It was an emotional roller coaster in many ways for the people, and I'm sure for Jesus. And as we read about it, and as I've been reading about it, I realize that Jesus went through all kinds of emotions because he experienced life, well, like we do. And our lives are filled with all kinds of emotions. And often when we celebrate Easter, we just want to kind of celebrate. We want to get excited. There's things to get excited about, and chocolate helps us get excited. But the reality of Holy Week is it's a roller coaster of emotions. And we can relate because we experience those emotions. And Jesus can relate to us because he experienced those emotions. And the emotion that I just want to talk about briefly today is this idea that Jesus wept. The Bible tells us that Jesus weeps. He cries. He has this depth of sadness within him at points within his life. One time we read in the Bible that Jesus wept because of a friend who had passed away. And some of us can relate to that right now. And many of us, well, all of us will be able to relate to it at some point in our life because we experienced loss, and Jesus wept. And one of the things that happened during Holy Week, after, or actually on the way, as Jesus is experiencing people shouting and welcoming him and praising him and saying, "Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord," immediately after that, in the story, in the Gospel of Luke, we read this. "But as he came closer to Jerusalem and saw the city ahead, he began to weep." You see, amidst the celebration, Jesus wept. Now, I don't know about you, but when I think of weeping, I don't think of just a tear or two. I think of, just uncontrolled crying. And we read in Scripture that Jesus wept. And we need to know that. We need to hear that. We need to understand that Jesus was filled with emotion as he looked over the city. Have you ever had a moment like that? When you see something and you just begin to cry. Now, a lot of us are taught, it'll be okay. Don't cry. We try to stop people from crying. It seems to be our natural reaction. But sometimes, friends, all we can do in a given situation is let the tears fall. Because there are things in life that we experience, and as Jesus had experienced, that just move us to tears. And that's okay. If it's good enough for Jesus, it's good enough for us. If we want to follow Jesus, we have to acknowledge that there are times when we become so emotional, so sad, because of something that happens in life that we weep. In fact, I was doing some reading as I was reading about Jesus and his last week here on earth and Holy Week, as I'm thinking and preparing for that. I also was reading about crying and how scientists tell us that it's actually good for us. It's a release. And it can be healthy. And so, friends, as we travel through this week of Holy Week, as we travel through life and some of the most difficult things, And I know some of you are experiencing those even this week. As we travel together, let us not be afraid to weep. Some of us would prefer to do it in private, but sometimes we have to come together and we have to share our grief. And as Jesus looked over and felt compassion over a whole group of people, a whole city, in a very public place, it seems that he wept. Know this, if you are weeping this week, that's okay. You're in good company. Jesus wept. Jesus understands. He's experienced the pain and the sadness. As you go through this Holy Week, as you go through this week, whatever you're going through, know that Jesus understands. And he weeps and he cares, and we can do the same. God bless you. Peace be with you. Have a blessed Holy Week.